In this video, I'm going to go over another small utility that gathers information about your system and your hardware components and displays it in a nice little graphical user interface so that you know what's inside your system and you know about your operating system. Now, in my last video, I made a web page and then I made a YouTube video about HWiNFO that does very similar. Now, if you look at this, this kind of does look like the device manager found in the old version of Windows, and HWiNFO also looked like Specky and also looked like the ADIA64 or the ADIA. This here, someone found this link. I don't know if they watched my YouTube video and then went to my website, but then they emailed me through my website and said that they prefer to use INEX, but they also use Ubuntu. I don't know if they use Ubuntu Mate, but they use Ubuntu 18.04, and they said they had trouble getting this installed and remain working. So I figured out how to do it, so I decided to make a web page about it and to make a YouTube video. Now I will close out the HWiNFO because that was my older one, and then here was information about my hard drive. Now let me go back to here. This right here shows you the information that it will follow, that will gather about your system, and I'm not going to read all of those. I'll go over briefly about the system. Now, if you're using Ubuntu 18.10 or 19.04, or you're watching this in the future from now and you're using a later or newer version, I say later, but a newer version than what I'm using, because I'm using 18.04.2, the long-term support. And the actual, if you click on this link here from Launchpad, you'll see that the creators from INEX, there is a bug, that this bug 1781753, INEX does not install on Ubuntu 18.04, the long-term support. Well, I figured a way around it. Now, these are the links that I do have on my webpage, which is 7.6, and after you install them, Ubuntu 18.04 says there's even a newer version out there and tries to install something over it, and that's when it crashes. So I'm going to show you how you can overcome that problem. Now, if you're using Ubuntu 18.10 or 19.04, you can just click either of these links and install the deb file as you normally would with the GDebi package installer. Click install, wait until it finishes, and you're done. That's how simple it is. You can go through and use the program. Now, it's a little bit more complicated if you're using Ubuntu 18.04. Now, before I actually get started showing you how to install it, let me show you what it looks like in the Windows environment, something similar. INEX kind of looks very similar, and I think it's what it's based off of, CPU-Z in the Windows environment, and also looks very similar to HWiNFO. And I'm going to go ahead and close these two out. Now, here's the instructions for installing INEX. You open up your terminal and you just copy this command and put it here. The sudo space -s, that puts you in root. It makes you the super user, because what you're going to do is you're going to copy that entire line that I bolded, and it overlaps from here. You're copying it all at one time, and you're putting it in your terminal, and you're pressing the enter or return key. Alright, after you do that, you're not exiting the terminal. Normally when you put EXIT in your terminal and you press the enter or return key, it closes out the terminal. In this case, you're just leaving super user or root user back to your normal user in your terminal. So don't think that you're exiting the terminal. What you're doing here, and if you look here, you're taking this old version of Ubuntu Zesty, because I'm using Bionic Beaver, and you're installing it from an older package. So that's why we're including this in our source list, is because we're installing an older package into Ubuntu 18.04, the Bionic Beaver. Now you want to, this is for the dependencies that the program needs. You're going to copy this repository and you're going to paste it in here, and you're going to press the enter return key. Then you're going to go to sudo apt or apt-get update to update your repositories, and then once you're finished, you're going to install all the dependencies. You're going to copy this entire line, put it in your terminal, press the enter return key, and then once it's finished, it's going to go through and take a long time to download all of those dependencies from and I do put -y because each one of those say, are you sure you want to install that? And by putting -y, it will go through and answer that automatically and install it. When it finishes, You're then ready to click this link, and earlier when I was on Launchpad, these are just links copied from it. So you can see down here in the bottom, when I highlight, you can see that it's from Launchpad at the bottom and from Launchpad. And if for some reason they ever delete those, I did put them in my Dropbox folder, so you can click one of these, like I'm using 64. It says it can't preview, but I can click there to download it. So I do have the 64-bit version and the 32-bit version linked on my website. Alright, so once that you've downloaded the correct deb package for your system, like I said, those top ones are the same, so you can choose either this one or this one for the 64-bit systems, or you can choose this link or this link for your 32-bit systems. When you actually go to where you downloaded it, double click it, you will bring up your package installer. It's the GDB package installer, and if you've got Ubuntu 18.04, it should be pre-installed. If not, open up your terminal, put sudo apt-get gdb, and let that install your GDB package installer. Then all you simply do is hit install package. Now look here, it says all the dependencies are satisfied. If you copied all of these, it should have all the dependencies, but for some reason it may need something that was already on my system, and it may show 1 or 2 and have details. You really don't have to click the details. When you hit install packages, since you do have the old repository and the repository links to all the dependencies, when you hit install the package, it will go get the dependencies it needs, and then it will install INEX on your system. And notice you do have to install it as a super user, just as you would any software. Now, you do not close it down immediately when it says it's completed. You know, a lot of times it will come up down here saying complete. Wait till it shows you in the status same version is already installed, and these buttons change to look like this before you close it out. Now, once you do, and this is important, once you do, here's the problem with Ubuntu 18.04. Normally, when you install something, you're done. But when you go to your software updater, if you click on updater, it will find a newer version of INEX for the Ubuntu 18.04. And so what we want to do is we want to delete out the Gambus, which is our dependencies. When I say delete it, you don't have to delete it. You can just uncheck it. So that way when you're going through and scanning for the repositories, you're getting that where you're overlooking the dependencies, because the dependencies you're installing was for that version of INEX that you install. So you can uncheck it. If you want to hit remove, that's fine. That's another way of doing it. But before you close it out, scroll through and also find where we put the zesty version of that PPA or the repository in the PPA in our repositories. You can either remove it or uncheck it, and then when you hit close, it's going to prompt you to reload so that it updates your PPAs, your repository. So you hit reload, it's going to go through and update your cache, and so the next time that you do an update, it's going to tell you that it's held after you do this command here. Now, if you go and say sudo apt-get update and then sudo apt-get upgrade, or you go through and say administration software updater, it's going to install a newer version, and then that's when it quits working. So here's the key thing that you need to do, and I guess I should have put important here, but if you're watching this video, please make sure you don't skip number 19. You're going to have to back up your terminal, or it may already be minimized. You're going to copy this line, sudo apt-mark hold INEX. What the apt-mark hold command does is it will hold this version of this program. So for I have INEX, anytime you install something on your system, if you want to keep the version that's installed and you don't want to get any future upgrades to it or updates to it, you can go sudo apt-mark hold and put the name of the program. When you press the enter key, since I had closed my terminal, it's prompting me for my password, and after I press the enter key, it says INEX is set on hold. Now you can see here when you go sudo apt-get upgrade, which I have here, it will tell you that the following package has been kept back. So the next time you go to administration software updater, if there's no other packages, it will say your computer's up to date, but when there are packages, you'll see INEX at the top of the list or somewhere in the list, and it won't have a check next to it. So don't check it, because it's just held back. It lets you know that there is a newer version, but that newer version will not work on your system. Now from here, I just show you how you can access it and show you the features of it. But since I do have it installed, I will go ahead and minimize my web page, and I will provide a link if you found this on YouTube. It's in System Tools, and you have your INEX library, which shows you basically the dependencies that were installed and the INEX program. When you click on it for the first time, it takes a little while to load, because what it's doing is it's gathering up all the information about your system so that it can display it in your sensors that you have installed. And one key thing about the sensors I did fail to mention, up here at the top, at the very beginning, if you install this, either version 18.10 or 19.04 or 18.04, if you install it and you bring it up, and as you can see here, if it doesn't show you any temperature, if the temperature is blank, or if you go through and don't have any voltage settings on your voltage points, then you might need to install some of this program called LM sensors and HD temp. I had it pre-installed before I installed this program, so I don't know if it's needed or not. If it is, you just click this link and it will bring up where I did hard info. That way I didn't have to copy and paste all this information and put it on this site. You just follow where it says how to install LM sensors. Just copy that, paste it into your terminal, press the return key or the enter key, then copy this for the HD temp. And then this is the one you need for the beginning part, HD temp. And the other one's about your sensors. So for the HD temp, if your first page where it says temperature is blank, then click on that link and install those packages. All right, now getting back to the program. The first tab that you're presented with is your CPU, and that's the brain of your computer. As you can see here, I do have an AMD. It's unlocked in my system. Here's the current temperature for it. As you can see, here's the speed that one particular core is running at, and you can look through and it has a lot of information. You can get more information by clicking more, or this just says CPU-info. The next one is your CPU IDs, the identification. So when I click here, it tells me the family that it's in, it tells me the actual name, AMD FX 8350, the 8-core processor. It tells me a lot of information about the clock speeds, a lot of information, and down here is basically what a lot of people that are in gamings want to know about their video cards along with games. You can look at the things that are checked. This is supported by my video card. Now I do have two video cards in my computer. The video card that's on board, and then I installed an extra video card, a video card in the system I bought to put in the system along with the sound card. It has an onboard sound card and an onboard video card, but I did put an extra video card and another sound card. But you can look through here to see if that your CPU supports things. Like you can see here, it's kind of hard to read on this dark theme, but you can read here and look. The things that are X are things that it does not support. The things that are checked is what it does support. And sometimes you can get you can download a firmware to let the computer CPU support something with a firmware. But if you don't know what that is, don't look it up and do that to your system unless you have knowledge about it. If you mess up on a firmware install, you could really mess up or damage your system. The next one is your GPU, your graphic. It's about your graphics card. I do have a Radeon graphics AMD card. As I said before, I do have two cards in my system. The card Z-Mo one that you see here is the one that's active. It's kind of hard to see. You might need to change your color theme to read some of this easier, but this is information about your video card. Here's about your motherboard. You can look at your motherboard. It tells you the name of the motherboard, ASRock. It tells you the board name, like the 990FX Extreme 4, who made the BIOS, what version the BIOS is, and what version the BIOS date. Now this is an old PC that I put together myself. As you can see here, the BIOS is pretty old. There probably is an update for the BIOS, but since it works great, there's no need to mess with that if it's working good. Next is the audio. Now I do have two audio cards. As I said before, you can click the drop down and look at the different video cards and audio cards. Now this is the actual audio card that I'm using. This is the active one. This was my own board. So here's my active audio card. You can scroll through and look at the information about the audio to see if it meets the specifications for whatever you're needing it for. Here's your drives. Now in my computer, I have a SDA. If I look here, my SDA is my main drive that I boot off of, which is this one. This is my boot drive. It's 256 gigabytes. It's very small, but I only use my operating system, Ubuntu 18.04.2, the long-term support, and the application programs that are running on this system. And a lot of the files that I create from those, I put it on a hard drive, a mechanical hard drive. That way, if I ever had to reboot or reload my system, the files that I create are not lost. It's just the programs, which I have screenshots and I have backed up the important things in case I had to. So the SSD is a lot faster. So my old system works very fast by having an SSD rather than your old hard drives. Now my next hard drive is my SDC. I have a lot of things here like for thumb drives and external drives, but the SDC, and if where I find it is, there's E, these are small letters on my screen. Here it is. This is my 4 terabyte, and I know formatted it's not exactly 4 terabytes. It's 66% full. This is where I keep most of my files that I create, and things that I download I normally store it on this drive. Now things that are super important, I store it on the SDB, which is this one. So you can look up and it tells you your points, how it's mounted into the system. It tells your UUID. So like if you're trying to set up your hard drives to run Plex or MB, this is very important information to know how to link to your files that are on your storage devices. The next tab up at the top is your Systems tab. Now I do like this one a little better than HWiNFO, and let me tell you why. If you look at both, tells you the vendor is Ubuntu. They both will tell you the version is 18.04, but the HWiNFO will not tell you the desktop environment. So depending on your preferences, I already know, and most people already know or know how to get their desktop environment. Like I can click here and it will show, but this tells you within this little program, desktop environment is the Mate 1.20.0. It even will show you that I'm using Marco Metacity window manager. It even tells me my theme. I'm using a dark theme. It's the Adwada Dark. And as you can see here, those are my GTK2s and GTK3 themes. My icon theme, it tells me that as well. It tells me my fonts. And so this gives you a lot of information about your system. You can click here, your library, and you can go into more details. Let's go to the kernel tab. The kernel tab shows you the active kernel that's running, and I think since I did the HWiNFO, I've had an update for my kernel since that particular video. So this shows you that I do have 3 kernels installed, but this is the active one. So if I wanted to roll back to a previous kernel, you hit this to scroll over. The next one is your memory. I have a total of 8 gigabytes of memory. As you can see here right now, the memory, I'm only using 26% of that, so I'm very good with memory. Even though 8 gigabytes is not a lot of memory to most people, for what I'm using it at, it works great. Here's information about your network. You can go and get a lot of things to where you show receive, transmit. You can get a lot of things up here by dropping down and choosing other devices as well. Here's your USBs, and I've got a lot of places I can connect to USBs, and I actually have a lot of devices plugged in my USB. So you can go and randomly select through here all your USB devices that you can select from. You can even look at all the input devices, like what's assigned as input 0 is your power button. What's assigned as input 1, that's also power button. You can go through all your inputs, which the input 6 is my sound driver, the ALSA driver for my sound card. So you can look at all your inputs and see what is assigned to them. That was the last thing here across the top of all the tabs. You can simply move through this way. But here's a lot of important buttons down here that sometimes gets overlooked. If, like for example, your temperature, let's go back up and go back in where it says the CPU info. If you wanted to screen capture that, you could take, instead of going up here and saying take a screenshot, this has a built-in screenshot utility where I click this little button. It looks very similar to this icon here before I actually start recording. When I click this, it immediately took a screenshot of the program. So I can save this. There's a little save button, cancel. I can save it as a PNG file or a JPEG file. I can increase the quality or decrease it, choose the location, and actually put a file name here. So this is a neat little program because it has a built-in screenshot where I can go across each of the tabs, take a screenshot, put them in a folder somewhere, and if it ever misbehaves, I can go through each of the tabs, take a screenshot, and compare the data on there to help determine what the problem is. The next button, and if you see here it has little tooltips, is your options button where you can put a username, you can register for a code key for this particular product. Here is your generator report, and this hardware info also had this where you can go through and click what reports you want to generate, and then once you've got all of them generated, you can post it like on pastebin.com or a lot of other places online, so that if you're requesting help for your system, someone can look through this information and help you diagnose the problem. So you could put a check on each of those. You could say generate a report, and when it's finished you could save that report into a particular folder. I'm not going to generate it right now. It takes a while. The last feature on here is the About the App. When you click here, it tells you what version it is. It tells you a lot more information. It lets you go to the home page, email the creators of this program, and right here is a main bug reporter. So if you have trouble, you could email these individuals. And right here's about the license, and you can close it out here. So this is very similar to HWiNFO. The only thing about it is the graphical user interface is laid out much different. So if you're coming from the Windows environment and use CPU-Z or the other program that I showed you, and CPU-Z is very popular, and a lot of gamers like that for the feature that they can go and look and see what's supported and what's not with the components in their system. A lot of gamers like that feature. You know, the HWiNFO, you can look and see what it's got and what the details are for it, but it don't tell you whether it supports something or not. So that's an advantage that INEX has over the HWiNFO. So just remember before I end the video, in order to not get the current update, you know, for the newest one, you're going to, after you take out your PPAs in your repositories here, going to software and updates and take it out, you need to go sudo apt mark hold INEX. So the next time you go and run, and I'll actually show you what it's going to display. I've already ran sudo apt get update before I started the video, so all I have to do is sudo apt upgrade. And when I put that, it's going to ask me for my password. And then watch what it does. It's going to tell you everything is up to date, but the following package has been held back. When you look at that, don't panic, think, oh my god, I'm not getting an update for this. You intentionally held this back because the newer version with 18.04 will not work. And that's what that bug report is. So if you want to use INEX on Ubuntu 18.04, follow these steps on this website, and it should work great for you. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you if you've been trying to install INEX on your Ubuntu 18.04 system. And if you're using other derivatives, hopefully you can just go into your Synaptic Package Manager or your software package manager and install the program, and hopefully it works. As far as I know, the bug only works for Ubuntu 18.04 and its derivatives. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you, and have a great day.